2. All right, I believe we're live. So good to see everyone. Good to see you all. Thank you. Thank you for joining me tonight or whenever you do eventually join me. I thought we would keep it light this evening and do a little 60-minute segment on civil war, the Islamic EndTimes, and human flourishing. You know, just a light one, a little light snack before going to bed. What is up with Americans and how you guys are pronouncing Notre Dame? Throughout the whole world, Notre Dame is just Notre Dame, the hunchback of Notre Dame. Everybody says Notre Dame, right? The French say Notre Dame, the English say Notre Dame, but then once you get to America, it's Notre Dame. Why are you doing that? Why are you saying Notre Dame? It's not Notre Dame, the hunchback of Notre Dame. Is that what you guys are calling that? The hunchback of Notre Dame. You guys, that feels personal. Like, that feels personal, and I don't get it where it's coming from. I thought the Americans and the French were tight. I thought you guys teamed up during the Civil War, and then all of a sudden you're throwing a Notre Dame in there. You guys, you like to stir a bit of drama. Listen. We're going to bring it together. And language is one of the things that brings us together. I reflected on language recently. In fact, reflecting and language go hand in hand, don't they? It's hard to do one without the other. Not just to stick it to the Americans. Let's stick it to the English. Let's stick it to a particular Englishman. I was reflecting on Jason Statham. I was reflecting on him recently and how, like, a skilled editor could take his whole filmography and just sequence it into an 80-hour-long single film. And you would just think you're following the same guy because he has the range of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's the same thing and everything. Oi, let me transport this for you. No questions. I crashed into the water. There's a shark here. Don't touch me car or me bees. I'm a beekeeper. That's all he does. He's the same and everything. I want you to rate that Jason Statham impersonation. I think that was a 10 out of 10. Guys, we're going to get to the issues. We're going to talk about them. I've got them all loaded up here. Just loading them up. But before I load those up, as you can tell, I've got some very important messages I just want to shoot off. No, there was a reflection I made on language. I was going to try and find it. I don't know if I can. But it was about how the words that are across every language. So it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter if your language stems from the Proto-Indo-European or if it's some other kinds. One of the other ones. That there's certain sounds, right? There's a limitation to the noises that human beings can produce. And it just so happens that there's a great similarity between the words for mum, dad, and you. So it doesn't really matter where you come from in the world. There's certain words that are always going to bind us together. And 3 words that doesn't matter where you are in the world. You could be in some tribe in, the Amazon, or you could be in the middle of the Congo, or you could be in Siberia. And if you referred to your mama or your papa or baba, or if you said tu or you, people would kind of understand those specific words. And I thought there's something quite beautiful about that, isn't there? There's something really interesting about how those noises cross boundaries, right? And of course, you can explain it as a sort of mechanical convergence, right? We can only make a limited set of sounds, and these are the easiest ones to produce. So there's a functional biological explanation, but that doesn't dull the wonder, right? It's still amazing that it happened in this way, and that these relationships are encoded in sounds that we find across the planet. In the Bible, there's the story of the Tower of Babel, right? It's a parable for arrogance and pride. And so God scatters the people and confuses their language. And it's interesting to me that strangers from different continents can still comprehend such fundamental terms, that information, and you wouldn't even need a translator for it. There's something deeply important about mum, about dad, about you, and that matters. I think there's something significant about that. You know, I was reading this book. I got sent a book from a Haitian American scholar. I didn't order it, but I got sent it, so I thought I'll have a little gander. And inside the book is this book here. Inside this book, it's called Theological Education and Christian Scholarship for Human Flourishing. And it says here that justice is the moral order of the universe that produces harmony, wisdom, peace, and the good life. And that if you transgress that order, you will create chaos, disorder, an unjust world, a disharmonious society. And it's from this perspective that Aristotle's virtue ethics are commendable, as he can detect, as it says, in a certain, he's quoting someone else here. The Aristotelian account of virtue is not utilitarian. The virtues are not pursued by individuals either because they are led to their own flourishing or to that of others, but because they are worth pursuing in themselves. Furthermore, a society in which the virtues are practiced is one whose worth, wholeness, is partly constituted by the fact that the appropriate virtues are pursued by its members. A worthwhile society is one that enables an extended sense the flourishing of individuals. Enables in an extended sense the flourishing of individuals. Yeah, you want to enable the flourishing of individuals. That's what a Christian society would look like. And so let me turn our attention to a little something here. We got the fly and the moth. Why have I presented the fly and the moth to us? Well, it's a symbol. It's a symbol. We all know how a moth can be attracted to a flame. And it just so happens to be the symbol of a approach to religion, I guess you could call it, in the Islamic faith, usually the Sunni expression of Islam, and it's called Sufism. Sufism. To be a Sufi Muslim. Okay, and I thought we'd talk about this very briefly, because we're going to look at Islamic EndTimes in this video. And so this tradition, which comes from Sunni Islam more so than Shia, and the distinction there, I say that Sunni Islam is like Protestantism because it draws authority from consensus and scholarship rather than divine appointment. So in Shia Islam, authority descends through Ali and his lineage, right? Starts with Muhammad, goes to Ali, and down through the lineage. I see that more as papal succession, although Sunni Islam is the majority. But in terms of authority and hierarchy, that's where I make the distinction. So I say that Sunni's more like Protestantism. So Sufis offer 3 layers of spiritual life for the Muslim. There's Islam, which is outward submission, Sharia. There's Iman. Iman is inward belief in faith. And then there's Ihsan. Ihsan. I-H-S-A-N. Ihsan. I don't know, man. I don't know what they're saying. But this Ihsan, means spiritual excellence. So you can see how it works. There's the outward demonstration of your faith. There's the inward demonstration of your faith. And then there's a level of transcendence to be achieved as well. So outward, inward transcendence. You could put it that way if you want. Now, not everybody's hot on that. Let's just get it clear. The Wahhabis, for example, they hate this. They're not a fan of the Sufi. They view them with suspicion. It's a lot like how the early church treated Gnosticism. But Gnosticism, like Sufism, emphasizes the inner life, symbolism, and a mystical path aimed at deep transformation and union with the divine. Christian traditions are often more comfortable expressing this mystical union in terms like theosis, becoming one with God, while Islam upholds Tawhid, which is the radical oneness and separateness of God. Still, Sufism's teaching on Fana, which is ego, death, and God, and Baqa, living in God after the self dissolves, echoes the aspirations of theosis. So while certain Gnostics, like Sethians, see the material world as a fallen emanation, I would say I take on a more panentheistic view. A lot of the Gnostics would see the world as an emanation, like God's the pure thing over here, and then we live like in the outside of the onion, and we don't really access God. God is quite esoteric and difficult to get to. We're more the stuff of a demiurge, or just a lower vibration, if you will. I don't buy into that. And who knows if the Gnostics did either, that it might have just been colourful metaphorical language, although, who knows. So I'd say I'm more of a panentheist, which means I believe that the divine is both beyond and within creation, never truly distant. And so that's a bit more like the Sufi in this example. Sufism doesn't see legal observance as the point of life. So a Sufi might be quite relaxed. They're not against Sharia law, but it's not the be-all and end-all for a Sufi. It's more about deepening the inner life, and that's the way, I think we should all be walking. It's all about the interiority. I'd say that's very important. Now, a Muslim's always going to say, like, Sharia law is important, right? You can't have the inner life without the kind of Sharia code. It's like a Jew without the Torah or something, but, we could chill. We could chill a little bit on the old Sharia, especially in countries where it's not traditionally a part of life. So Sufism doesn't elevate that necessarily. It's all about the inner life. It's introspective, it's bridge building, it's profoundly humane. And so I believe in a nation like Britain, it would make sense to encourage this kind of Islam, right? And especially to make heroes out of people who are amazing members of the Islamic faith. Like there's a guy called Raja Miah. Don't know how you pronounce his surname, Miah, right? And he's exposed these grooming gangs in Rochdale and stuff. And there's a guy to make a documentary and a statue out of. But let's tune in now. So we've learned a little bit about Sufism. Very chill, very cool. Let's dive on in to a little segment here from Servant of Allah. Let's see what he has to say. So let's break down this end times prophecy, because I'm curious. I don't know if you're curious, but I'm personally quite curious what the Muslims are saying about the signs of the times, right? Are Muslims just chill? I don't hear a lot from Islam about the end of days. Let's hear what they have to say. I'm not going to say this guy speaks for every Muslim, but I'm curious.
Then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and the last hour will not come until groups of my ummah will follow the polytheists. What does it mean to follow the polytheists? In two ways. They convert to polytheism, and number two, they remain Muslim by name, but they adopt polytheistic ideas and ideologies into the religion. Like real polytheistic ideas. For example, Buddhist ideas, Hindu ideas, Zoroastrian ideas of the ancient Babylonians and the Persians after them. So you've got to be very careful. And it says, groups of my ummah will mix their deen with polytheism, or they will convert to polytheism until idols are worshipped again. Now, idols come in different forms. Don't always think the statue. Nobody worships a statue, and no Muslim will do that. But idols come in different forms. They could be celestial planets, they could be an idea, it can be forces that are imagined, for example, superstitious beliefs, stuff like that. And he said, and in my ummah there will be 30 liars. Each one of them will claim he is a prophet, even among them are women. All of them are liars. And he says, there is no other prophet after me. وَإِنِّي خَاتَمُ النَّبِيِّينَ, I am the seal and the end. You find people that come up and they interpret this word khatam in some bizarre way. Does not make sense with Arabic. They make it work into it. Doesn't make sense with the context. And they just bring up and say, oh, he's the seal, meaning he is the best. Subhanallah. The context of the verses in the Quran and Hadith are very clear. وَأَنَا خَاتَمُ النَّبِيِّينَ, I am the seal of the prophets, meaning the end. The Arabs, whenever they use the word khatam, it means the end. But some people, because of their desires or because of some man they want to follow, no, they have to work it in. No, that person is the prophet. We just want to say, whoever says that, Rasulullah he is telling you you've disbelieved. And it's in the Quran. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but one day we'll talk about it. And he said, لَا نَبِيَّ بَعْدِي, there is no prophet after me. And Allah says in the Quran, the hour has come for the people. The time of people's reckoning has drawn near, and yet they turn aside in heedlessness. Whenever any fresh surah comes to them from their Lord, they barely heed it and remain immersed in play, their hearts being set on other concerns. The wrongdoers whisper to one another, this person is no more than a mortal like yourselves. Will you then be enchanted by sorcery while you see? He said, my Lord knows well all that is spoken in the heavens and the earth. He is all-knowing, all-hearing. They say, nay, these are confused dreams. Nay, he has forged it. Nay, he is a poet. So let him bring us a sign, even as the messengers of the past were sent with signs. The people of the past used to mock the Prophet ﷺ that way, and mock the ayat that way, and interpret them in their own way. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I and the last hour were raised like this, and he pointed with his two fingers like this, meaning that there is not much long before the last hour comes and my prophethood coming out. And it also means you got no other religion and no other prophet after me. It's me and the last hour, that's it. So you better follow it. It's the end, it's the last one. It's the final Quran, the final message, the final words, the final Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Khalas, that's it. No prophet after me. But after all that, وَلَا تَزَالُ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْ أُمَّتِي عَلَى الْحَقِّ, but have no doubt about it, there will always be a faction of my ummah dispersed in the world, that they are always still maintaining and standing on the truth of what the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ taught and came with, properly, the way he came with it. ظاهرين, they will always be manifested and they will be seen. They always come up. They're not hiding in caves. Subhanallah, look at social media now, how we have ulama popping up so much. People in my days, we used to think, Shaykh so-and-so, oh, I dream to ever meet this person. SubhanAllah, now they're popping up on social media. Do you remember in the past, we used to look at those who are my age, the actors and performers on TV, and we think, wow, imagine seeing them. And then now they all pop up on social media. They don't really mean anything. They're like everyone else, like popping up. And then the ulama are popping up. So Rasulullah ﷺ tells us, ظاهرين, Those people on the truth, they will pop up. They're not hiding, and you will hear them. ظاهرين لا يضرهم من يخذلهم حتى يأتي أمر الله. These types of people, anyone who betrays them or calls them a liar can never harm them. You can't do anything to them. They will always be on the truth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala therefore will keep this deen and this Islam and Muslims till the end of this world. Nobody can ever take them away, and the teachings of true Islam will never ever go away. Try to make another Quran. Just try and make another surah or one more ayah. Can't do it. People have tried, and some of them converted or reverted to Islam.
Doing it tonight, guys. Quran
I end this with an advice of how to stay on the right track and in good health mentally and religiously, spiritually, in the times of conflict, confusion, and triumph and tribulations. Remember, we said tribulations, triumphs, and trials, they come in many ways, but the ultimate way is when people start to harm each other and you don't know the truth from the false, and then you're stuck there and you don't know which way to go. Number one, so I'll give you how many? I'll give you, I won't say numbers anymore, so I'll just give you and you count them. Number one, learn and stick. Learn from a qualified sheikh, imam, scholar, not just from any person, from somebody who's qualified and known for their knowledge, or grab a book that is written by someone who is endorsed and qualified. Learn your tawheed in belief and in practice. First one is tawheed. Your monotheism has to be right. Otherwise, everything else is lost. Number two, maintain your connection with the Quran. Maintain your connection with the Quran, my brothers and sisters. You don't know how to read, learn. Doesn't matter. It's very valuable time that you are wasting. Some way, go online, find out who's teaching Quran, Arabic. Doesn't matter, pay a bit of money, not a problem, inshallah. At least learn how to read and live with it every day, reading even if it's 15 minutes. Maintain the Quran in your life. Number three, dua. And I'll teach you at least one dua to say in the times of calamities and confusion. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-fitani ma dhahara minha wa ma batan. Repeat after me. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika.
Dude, get to the point.
Ambiguous ideas. Following anything you hear or read without...
I mean, to be honest, a lot of this sounds a lot like something an EndTimes Christian preacher might tell you, come and make sure you get it from a real qualified guy who just so happens to adhere to the same doctrines as me. And, there's going to be falsehoods, and basically don't listen to those guys. Just listen to me again.
Advice or investigation. Stay away from that.
Stay away from people who aren't saying the things I say.
Don't follow on with things that are ambiguous and you have no knowledge about it. Just go ahead with it. Avoid...
Dude, that's the whole point of investigating something. Don't go ahead with things that are ambiguous. What, you mean like a line of inquiry? Like having a question? You know what I mean? Like you've got to be comfortable with ambiguity in order to find certainty, right? You can't just move from certainty to certainty, because that speaks to someone who is, open to much deception, right? I'm just going to move towards the most confident voice. It's like, dude, there's a lot of confident idiots out there. I mean that in a technical sense, people who are wise in their own eyes and follow their own ways. I don't think that's the best of advice. I understand the kind of sentiment he's going for, which is, hey, don't step out on a shaky bridge, perhaps. But I think he could have crafted that a little more carefully.
Acting on self-derived interpretations. Don't just read and say something, go to your friends and try to say this is what it means, and you start fighting about it as if you know. No, we don't know. Even, like me, I get very careful to talk about things I don't know about. And when I do, I suffer, because it's happened. It's happened before. I've never happened before. Someone expert comes up and, refutes what you had said. So be very careful, inshallah. And lastly, number 6, but if the issue is clear as the sun to you, clear as the sun, that you're an expert and knowledgeable about these ambiguous matters, and you know how to see the right from the wrong truly, and able to effect a positive change, then do so. But if you cannot, then don't get into it. Don't waste your time, your breath, and your energy in your fights.
Didn't we just get advice not to rely on yourself And then the advice is, but if you really do feel like you can rely on yourself, then hey, do that. It's like, dude, I don't know, man. You're casting a lot of doubt in my ability, and now I worry that my confidence might be actual, deception.
So my brothers and sisters, finally, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, finally. How many times did I say finally today? 5 times? 4 times? Okay, finally, brothers and sisters, always ask Allah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His glorious names and attributes to protect us from all kinds of tribulations, confusions and trials. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep our hearts steadfast on the truth. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our brothers and sisters, the ummah, from the outside enemy.
Why is he speaking English at all is a question that's coming to my mind right now. Why is he speaking English? Why not speak Arabic? Why is he on YouTube addressing an audience speaking the English language? Is that not some kind of weird impurity to bring into the equation? Especially, when I've got it written up here. Don't know if you can see that. No, there's no way you're going to see that. But Islamic polytheists, talking about last hour, talking about social media. I don't know. I think there's a tenuous link there. Social media and false prophets. And tribulations. He mentioned tribulations, and then he went on to true versus false and stuff. How do I make that less? There's a massive glare in my screen. I don't know, man. He didn't really tell me much about the end of days. Not really. All he said, the only big definitive clue he gave would be something about an embrace of polytheism, which is where Muslims might incorporate some kind of syncretism. They might take in some kind of Buddhism or whatever it might be. And so that's where you can see where the Wahhabis might take issue with the Sufi, because the Sufi might be seen as a little more esoteric and mystical, and that might be seen as something more of a Gnostic tradition. You see it right now in Syria, in fact. The Syrians are attacking the Druze people. Like the Druze people are a very distinct brand of Islam, and they have basically a section of Syria that they used to govern. And, they were always more politically neutral than not. But once this new ruler has come in after the Assad regime fell, some of the is it Sunnis there too? Some of the Sunni tribes are just like, nah, we're not going to put up with this sectarianism anymore. We're just going to take over and vanquish the thing, which is sectarian, But it's not good. People killing each other. We could use a little less of that. So let's see if he gives us anything
and
else.
The enemy from within, and from the calamities that befall them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show us the right from the wrong. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show us the right that brings us closer to paradise, and the wrong which brings us closer to hellfire, and assist us in following the one to paradise and staying away from that which take us to Jahannam. Waliyadu billah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive your sins and ours. Young people, youth, wallahi, you are in our hearts. Young people. I want to talk a lot today about young people.
Wait, what did you say?
Billah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive your sins and ours.
Who's to
and
forgive
the wrong,
sins?
which brings us closer to hellfire, and assist us in following the one to paradise
Allah?
and staying away from that which take us to Jahannam. Waliyadu billah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive your sins and ours. Young people, youth, wallahi, you are in our hearts. Young people. I want to talk a lot today about young people, but we changed the topic. But I really wanted to say, young people, oh elders, oh parents, please, my brothers and sisters, show them compassion, show them mercy, look after them.
No mercy.
Don't say to them bad words. Don't denigrate them. Don't tell them you're good for nothing and all those words. They
Good
have
for nothing.
challenges far beyond my generation and yours. Wallahi, there are times, uqsimu billah, I tear, because they go, I won't judge you, son, daughter. Respect their privacy as much as you can.
So whatever. So all he's really saying is, the Islamic end times, you will know it, because you're going to get Islamic people who are being totally chill and totally cool and getting along with other religions and having a little bit of compatibility with them. And he's like, no. That's impurity, that's impure, don't allow for that, no syncretism, just dominance of Islam, and that'll be chill. It's like, dude, if you want to live that way, why are you speaking English, right? You're speaking the language of the liberal mind, okay? And that is about pluralism. That is about different people coming together in their tradition. If you don't want to be a part of that, then you're speaking the wrong language. You know what I mean? I would advise, I mean, and I don't mean that to sound divisive. I just mean, I want, be the strongest Islam you can possibly be. Be the most courageous Islam you can possibly be in an Islamic nation, in an Islamic country. Okay? Don't do it with an English accent. Don't speak those words in the English language, right? If you're going to tell Muslims, oh, you can't be totally chill among other people who practice their faith differently, and you certainly can't incorporate anything that they consider to be sacred into your own religion. It's like, well, wait a minute, there is going to be compatibilities naturally, right? I've got some beliefs that are compatible with Islam, you know? I don't think it would be a concession for me to sit down with a Muslim and we just go, hey, you know what? We've actually got quite a lot in common, you know? And, you know, I think there's a place for a more, like, as I say, the Sufi approach about that interiority, looking at how we adjust the inside, and find spiritual excellence. And I think that's something that we can do across religions. But what I don't like is that this guy, to me, is advancing sectarianism. You know? He's, you know, speaking in a sense of, hey, I don't want to contaminate Islam right now, so don't try and incorporate. I mean, I guess I'm sympathetic to the fact that incorporating other traditions can lose the core of your beliefs in some way. I'm not unsympathetic to that, but I would want to condition it, especially in the Islamic faith where there is a lot of sectarianism. Like, maybe that could be said better, right? Maybe there needs to be something of a reformation in some expressions, in some places. Might not need to reform it at all in some regions of the world, but in others, maybe there's a conversation to be had. But, you know, when I was young, I used to think, hey, why doesn't the whole world just pick a religion and then go with that for like a period of time? And then once we get, it's like picking a lock, right? Once everybody in the world is a Christian, God might turn his face toward the world and, yes, you did it, guys. Or maybe it's Islam. If we just all become Islamic, you know, Allah will turn towards the world and, yes, you did it. I used to have that idea. But you see, it's a naive idea, you know. I think ultimately what God would want for us is to love, and the principle of love, even in the Islamic tradition, the Jewish tradition, the Christian tradition, you know, in these Abrahamic faiths, there is always some kind of loophole for the accommodation of someone who is sick or someone who is in need, or like, say for example, an Islamic person is starving to death and the only thing to eat is a pig. The Islamic scripture allows the Muslim to eat the pig, right? Because they're going to die if they don't otherwise. So there's a concession built in to eat the pig. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I thought in Islam eating a pig was a sin. And it's like, yeah, most of the time it's seen as something that's, you know, customarily avoided, and it's a sign of purity and distinctness and holiness. However, in the circumstances that someone might be dying, they're allowed to eat the pig. And that just makes you think, well, wait a minute, let's just hold on to that for a second. What does that mean? What does that mean? What is that hinting at? What is that suggesting to the Muslim? Wait, so Allah is perfectly fine with me eating a pig under the circumstances that it's a life and death situation. What does that mean for Islam then? Well, it means that Sharia is ceremonial. That's what that means. If Allah is willing to be like, oh my goodness, eat. If Allah's willing to do that, then the Muslim needs to reflect on what Sharia law is supposed to be doing, right? And if it's making you hard of heart, if it's making you turn away from your fellow man because they pronounce the names of the prophets slightly differently or have a slightly different history, then I would suggest that you're leaning into a sectarianism that betrays the heart and essence of the character of your God. Because if your God is willing to permit these, concessions when, it gets real, then surely in our interactions with one another, when it gets real, there's no reason for a Islamist militant to point an AK-47 at a Druze tribal person and shoot them as they leap off of the balcony of a building, right? There's maybe you shouldn't be doing that, Maybe there's another way. I'm not saying I don't really want to address Islamic militants. I don't know. I don't think that would really go far with them. But guys, there's a better way to do this. There's a better way to do this. So I don't know. I didn't really get as much as what I wanted from that clip. But I'm not finished. I'm not finished with these ideas. Let me just turn to the chat. It might be an odd day for it. Oh, we got a little something going on in the chat. Let's just check on him. We got Doug. Good to see you, Doug. Join to the flame. The fiery-winged serpent deceived. That can happen. Byron Mill says, makes claims like people have tried and have reverted or converted hearsay. Yeah, make sure you're afraid and following dogma. Yeah, that's it, innit? That's the old story. We got Sonic Grace, good to hear from you over there in Texas. I got a little something. Got a little something here, brother. There we go. I got my little Texas up here. I was going to sew that on to some top or another. Sunni Shia Ahmadiyya is newest. Yep. 1393 year have passed since the Prophet's death. Seems to be no end to the last days. Yep, Dean, seems like no end. The Mahdiya is the moderates. I think they want to go alone, yeah, but the heart is Shia. Sorry for to respell. Yeah, man, typing ain't for everyone. Nah, I hear you, man. I'm the same sometimes. Obviously, I need to turn on alerts for this channel. I know Joe Fisher is not very well. It's a secret podcast, right? It's the secret Islamic podcast. They are really in the wrong if they want to tell them the truth. They not in the land associated with their land allotment. Yep. Once religious differences are set aside, we have more in common with those who we believe to be our enemies. Absolutely. The early Himalaya was not given dominion over United Kingdom. What I said is biblical. Christ is king and awesome. Yeah, guys, Christ is king. Didn't that become controversial to say on Twitter for insane reasons? But that's the world we live in. We live in insane reasons world. Guys, I'm going to turn our attention right now to the Civil War. You may be thinking, what Civil War? There's no Civil War. Over here in the UK, yeah, the Civil War, look. It's not broken out yet, but it's on the lips of the media. Is civil war coming to the UK? We have that in EndTimes. The Telegraph, Britain is lurching towards civil war and nobody knows how to stop it. This came out just a month ago, a couple months ago, 4 days ago. Civil war coming to Britain. And, well, the reason people are saying this is, well, our Parliament has put in place a super injunction and hid from us the fact that they had permitted thousands of Afghanistanis or Afghan people to come to the UK. Now, we have crime statistics that show that an Afghanistan person's over 20 times more likely to commit like something like a rape than another member of the public. So there's a safety risk here, there's a national safety risk. And our government hid that from us while the election was happening, right? So there is a democratic crisis in this country right now, and we don't know if there's other super injunctions in place and they're just doing things without a mandate from the electorate. So a lot of people in the UK are annoyed, and there's a lot of tension growing, and you know, the media will characterize it as a certain ethnic tension, but that's not quite it. It's more of a battle of culture, more so than the ethnicities, although that's a useful narrative for certain political ideologies to put forward. But I'm curious to see what some of the language is here. Right, Andrew Brown, a civil war coming to the UK. In central London, to be told that we can expect 23,000 deaths a year in the coming conflict between groups based in the Islamist cities and those whose base is in the white rural areas. Dr. Betts, an American professor in the War Studies Department of King's College London, believes that civil war in this country is now inevitable, even if we haven't taken this on board. The prediction has been around for a while, though last month was the first time that I heard him put a figure on the carnage that he expects. He explained, extrapolating from the worst years of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. I'm a little more troubled by the thought that he might be right, and rather more troubled by the smugness of his audience at Unheard, who find it exciting to half believe him. They are window shopping for catastrophes. Dude, everyone does that, okay? That's what the whole end of days stuff is about. It gets people excited because, well, really, the issue is there hasn't really been purpose in society for a while. We've removed the purpose, and when you remove the purpose, dark things creep into that void, right? Unholy thoughts, unrighteous thoughts. We just read at the start of the hour the quote from Aristotle, right? And the whole thing about justice and how a harmonious society hinges upon justice. Well, there's no justice in the United Kingdom right now because of the lies and the deception and the corruption and the impingement on free speech. You know, we got a woman, a young mother doing 20 odd months in jail for a Facebook post that was just meh. Whereas someone who commits a terrible rape can be out in exactly the same period of time. It's insane. There's a whole sense of two-tier justice, which again is fueling this kind of civil war talk. Professor Betts does have an argument, and parts of it seem to be irrefutable. The three factors that he identified as leading up to civil strife in any country studied were ethnic replacement, the state's loss of legitimacy, and polar factionalism. That's not the order he put them in. No one who is Reform UK adjacent, it's a political party here, wants to hear that racist motives are uppermost on their agenda, but without the fury supplied by ethnic resentment, the other motives would be insufficient for the kind of widespread slaughter that he foresees. Well, it depends how you're portraying that, because it would be unfair to say that there's ethnic resentment among the indigenous population of the United Kingdom towards other ethnicities in an arbitrary application. What we're seeing just now in Epping, a town in England, are protesters standing outside of a hotel which is used for migrants because one migrant or illegal asylum seeker or whatever they might be, 8 days in the country, molested a couple of children. And you think to yourself, is that far right to be upset that your children are being molested by people who are supposed to be seeking some kind of asylum? And they've only been in the country for 8 days. And then they think, hey, you know what would be funny if I went and molested some of the children in this quaint English town? It's like, dude, what? Are you trying to cause civil unrest? What the hell is going on? So, yeah, man, part of the issue here is the government's incompetence. The government has not given any due consideration to integration or the numbers that, that can make that go smoothly. Or they're taking the scum of the earth and bringing them into this country, which is really unfortunate because we had a beautiful country and now it's just turning into what Donald Trump would call a shithole. but I don't know. I want to read something. It comes from that Raja guy I was talking about. Before I hit that, let me talk about love. Let me talk about love. Our theology can't determine our identity. However, our theology can disguise our identity, at least until we know better. And optimistically, I think we will. Let's talk about love. Love your enemies. I wrote this post a couple of days ago. I remember someone responded to love your enemies with, why the hell should I do that? What am I, some kind of a dumbass? They didn't use those words exactly, but the reaction is gettable. What does it mean to love an enemy? I think it means you're not supposed to have enemies. It doesn't mean you're not to make enemies. You can't control how others perceive you. It means you don't perceive others as enemies. It doesn't mean you make excuses for people who have wronged you. It doesn't mean you get blasé about the evils of the world. It doesn't mean that you suffer the impracticality of being at the mercy of an evil person or a corrupt system. It's about, or rather it's not about, resigning yourself to a morbid fate. It's about transcending the world. Now, it's a tricky balance to get right, but I have to imagine it's having an interior world that sees the negativity in the world in the same way an adult perceives a classroom of 5-year-old children. There's dramas and raw emotions in a class of 5-year-old children. But if you were to get offended and seriously swept up in those dramas, you'd be considered immature and dangerous. Now, you kind of understand what it means to be a 5-year-old child, right? So you don't take it personally. You don't get upset when a 5-year-old has a bit of a drama. Well, loving your enemies is about getting what it means to be a human being. Okay, creatures that are beset by hormones, lifetimes of mangled trauma, frustrated ambitions. Of course they hate you. Of course you're their enemy. They're confused. They're hurt. They're struggling to make sense of things. The best thing you can do dispositionally is love them. That doesn't speak to the precise actions that you should take. That only ministers to your own soul. And it steels you against the pattern of Cain. Imagine most people condition themselves not to respond with hate, but instead with love. There's no road rage, there's no hostile takeover, there's no deception, just a bunch of really nice people. Dogs and cats getting on. That's the world that we could live in. Unfortunately, there's a similarity between the universe out there and how we behave on this planet. Sometimes calamity is a precondition for life. And I wonder if we'll be able to exhaust ourselves and stop fighting at some point. But yeah, there's a guy here. His name is Raja Miah. And he's been called far right and a racist, despite the fact he's a brown Muslim man with a background in youth work, counter-extremism, and public policy. So it begs the question, how can a man like Raja Miah be branded a far-right racist? Such accusations against government and of gangsterism should provoke curiosity. Yeah, because he's pointing to the government and saying these guys are corrupt, right, for allowing the sex abuse scandal of children. Thousands, you're going to hear about this in America. It's the biggest national scandal ever, is how complicit the local government across England and the police were totally complicit in the gang rapes of thousands of children. Okay, this is why civil war is going to break out. But I'm raising up a Muslim man right now who stood up against this. He pointed to the government and said, "You suck." He pointed to the gangsters and said, "You suck." But people reflexively became outraged at Raja for calling these people out. That's sus. And we must wonder if far-right labels are being misused to silence legitimate criticisms and investigative courage. If so, then we're devaluing the meaning of racism and undermining the social fabric by eroding public trust. Miah has reportedly named individuals he claims were involved in gang-led sexual abuse in Oldham and Rochdale. He called out Shabar Ahmed, the ringleader of the notorious Rochdale grooming gang, who was convicted and sentenced in 2012. Miah has pointed to how Ahmed's own daughters eventually brought down their father by persistently petitioning the police. And the thing is, the police weren't responding to fathers. They were arresting the fathers when they tried to rescue their daughters. It took the main ringleader's daughters himself to go and petition the police consistently before something got done. And the reason that happened, the reason it wasn't investigated, was multifaceted, because the police were afraid of being perceived as culturally insensitive and racist, as one, but also because it was politically expedient to leave them alone. Okay? Because as Raja points out, there was this idea of community cohesion, right? We're not going to touch that because of community cohesion, which is a euphemism for looking the other way. It's a euphemism for letting these people rape young working class white girls because they're kafar, because they're scum, and, these particular people saw them as chattel. Now, what Raja does very adeptly is bring in discernment, because what you don't want is in a civil war, any civil war, you don't want civil war, right? But what you don't want is people attacking others indiscriminately. And one of the best ways to prevent indiscriminate attack is to be precise. And I've given the example of the mafia in New York City, right? Everybody knew after much investigation who the problematic Italians were. Okay? They were from Sicily and from south of Naples. And it was 5 particular families. You know about John Gotti, you know, the Gambino family. And there was a couple other families involved. You get really particular. And so Raja points out that it's people with Pakistani heritage, not just anyone in Pakistan, because the Pakistani people would condemn this. It wouldn't be allowed to happen in Pakistan, okay? But we import these criminals from the Mirpur region and the Lahore region of Pakistan. So we know where they're from. We're getting really precise now. We're naming the people running the gangs. This is what we need. This is discriminating in the best possible way, because it means the rest of the Pakistani community in the UK can breathe a sigh of relief, because suddenly they are no longer under the magnifying glass. All of the scrutiny is taken off them as a community because it's pointed on particular evildoers instead of a carte blanche. It's them versus us. Okay? And I'm not saying that the people of the United Kingdom are dumbasses who do see it as a them versus us situation. I think there's still plenty of nuance in this conversation. But the best way to lose the nuance is not to investigate the crime, because then you're going to get vigilanteism. Then you're going to get the lack of trust in the police. And the thing is, the police operate by the permission of the public, right? It was John Peel, somebody who devised what the principles of policing should be in the United Kingdom. And it was like by consent. And honestly, it really is by consent these days, because you'll see a police officer, no offence, I think you can get astounding female police officers, but a lot of the police officers, I've seen footage and it's like a 5'2" woman trying to confront someone over 6 feet tall. And in the UK, you're not allowed to carry weapons and the police don't have guns. So if that big man doesn't want to be arrested, he'll just go, nah, no thank you, and just walk past the officer. You see videos online of UK police and it's like a sketch, it's like a comedy sketch, because you see like one man throwing around the police officers. It's ridiculous. The lack of faith people have in institutions now. We are destroying the institutions. And this is the thing, going back to the top of the hour, justice is important. But we need to implement that in a way that makes sense. We need to be a bit more no-nonsense, you know? Civil war. Civil freaking war. Can't believe we're talking about that tonight. But it is a topic. It is on the lips of the news, and I want to turn my attention back to some of these. The Telegraph. There you go. Brilliant Telegraph. Thank you. Thank you for that great article, Telegraph. Let's get the first sentence there. I now fear Britain is heading for open sectarian conflict, possibly. Yeah, bruh. So does a lot of people. Let's just keep scrolling here. This is where mass immigration comes in. The suspicion that we are sharing the country with people who are cheating us because they don't play by the same rules, even when the rules are unwritten. That dismaying knowledge can arise in all sorts of contexts, as it did in the Brexit referendum. It is how my parents felt about Margaret Thatcher and the spivs that she encouraged. The spiv is a word that exactly captures the defalcation from the social contract. There is also the rage that Partygate roused. Oh yeah, I think somebody had a party during lockdown. It is one of the great motors of class warfare in both directions, but on the right in Britain today, it is inextricably bound up with racism, and it is in Trump's America and in the online right and left. All racial questions are seen through an American prism. You only need to look at the comments underneath YouTube recordings of Professor Bett's talks or a class photograph tweeted out by the head teacher and educationist Catherine Burbalson to glimpse a seething abyss of racist fury. The fact that few people will say such things offline and under the real names is one thing that gives me hope. Another is that there are very few guns in private hands in this country. What? So, something I'll say is, I don't know, I think older generations don't understand racism online because it doesn't really translate to the real world, right? Anybody who plays video games understands this concept. So I play video games. I've got my VR headset over there. I stick my VR headset on. I play a game. One of the games I'll play is called Population 1. It's a first-person shooter game. Not open world, but different maps. You can jump around. I will hear children, can't be over the age of 14 years old, screaming the N-word at each other. Now, do we honestly believe that these children are racists? Or are they just using racist language? And sometimes people don't understand there's a distinction between those two things, right? So that happened in the UK very recently. There was a famous cooking show over here, MasterChef, and our hosts have been cancelled, right? Their reputations have been ruined. Greg Wallace is one of those men, and it sounds like he was being a bit crass. So he was exposing himself to women and making inappropriate comments that people didn't like. And so he had to go away, and that seems fair, right? It seems like for him it might have been a joke, but people don't do well with public indecency. It's inappropriate. He has to go, that's fine. But he had a colleague who's also been cancelled, and his sin was that 7 years ago, he's believed to have sang the Kanye West song Gold Digger, right? And there's a lyric in Gold Digger, it sounded like, "Now I ain't seen she's a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke," and I won't say the word, but apparently he did sing that. Now he denies it. He says, "I don't remember that." And neither, who would remember singing Gold Digger 7 years ago? And quite frankly, who's that for when you cancel him for that? Who is that for? I would submit there isn't a single black person in the world who thinks somebody singing along to a Kanye West song is being purposefully hateful. You know what I mean? You might turn heads. People might go, what the fuck? You know, people might be like, whoa, okay. Maybe chill down a little bit. But I don't think people are going to automatically assume, oh, he's a racist and he sang Gold Digger by Kanye West because that was his cunning plan to hit the N-word and hope it goes under the radar. But everybody knows, you know, there's a left-wing position, I think I would call it, that portrays white people as just like, we are just like, I get to say the N-word. It's like, no, that doesn't exist. That's not a thing, right? Like, there's this idea that white people are just seething with, dripping with desire to be racist or something. And it's like, where is this coming from? Like, who's building this caricature, right? It reminds me of like anti-Semitic memes almost, right? It's just, it's not helpful. It's not useful. Somebody did a big collage of one of these abolishing whiteness things. And again, I don't think it's helpful to vilify white people. Now, again, I'm speaking to some Americans, right? And I think it might be a bit different in the USA, but it just feels inappropriate in the UK, you know what I mean, to even broach these kinds of things. It's not a deal here. It's never been a deal here. People want to make it a deal here. I think because of the legacy of slavery in the United States of America, there could be some kind of conversation to be had there. I don't know what that would look like. But, you know, people like Thomas Sowell say the biggest destructive factor for Black Americans is something like the way the welfare system was meted out. Now, I don't know if that critique is the most robust, but it's something that African-American scholar Thomas Sowell says. You know, he laments, he says, when I was a kid, you could leave your door unlocked. And it's like, man, you wouldn't even sleep if your door was unlocked now. You know what I mean? It's went really, really badly in some of these areas, and they're really deprived, and there's a culture that perpetuates violence. And, you know, he's very outspoken on some of these issues, you know. And then I'll listen to someone like Dr. Cornel West, and he's a bit more left-leaning with it, and he will discuss the legacy of racism and, you know, apartheid type social policy, and how that's put African Americans on a back foot historically. So I'm sympathetic to it. Now, I was reading this book. I remember I was telling you about this book, and it's written by a Haitian American, right? And I was reading through it, and he's got this little bit in here. Again, I'm just opening pages. I'm not really getting deep into the context. But there's a bit here. So he says, first, if you're a white Christian professor and educator at a theological school, you should be committed to enhancing diversity and multicultural education at your institution, especially in your selection of the required texts for your courses. You should strongly consider assigning non-white Christian authors or texts to enrich student learning and expose them to the richness and significance of a multicultural theological education learning environment. By engaging in this cultural and intellectual exercise, you are training and encouraging your students to interpret scriptures from a non-Eurocentric hermeneutics and interpretive lens. The commitment to diversity and multiculturalism in the classroom would guide your students to study broadly and think critically outside the status quo and the European narrative of Christianity. Most importantly, your students will have a better grasp of the human condition and appreciation for a theological education beyond the exclusive North American and European worldview. All right. What was that? What was that I said about a better grasp of the human condition? So that author's Haitian American. Let's go to Haisha. Let's go to Haiti, right? Let's go to Haisha. That's my big, multicultural brain working there. But I mean, Haiti's devolved into a absolute Mad Max scenario. Now, you could blame that on the legacy of colonialism, but I feel like everyone does that. Whenever something isn't functioning in a non-European country, the blame it's like the British Empire is to blame for that. It's like, I'm sorry, but the British Empire, at what point does the British, if there's a family fighting in Istanbul right now, and the man's slapping the woman's face for not cooking his dinner appropriately, I mean, at what point is he responsible for his domestic violence? And why must we tie threads from that to the British Empire, right? It just seems like such an obfuscation of responsibility, right? Personal responsibility. I mean, this author also speaks on justice. And I think, that's one of the things that's missing from a lot of societies in the world, is the idea of justice. We take it for granted, but in many, many places in the world, money talks. If the police pulled you over, you are expected to roll up a little something and put it in their pocket, right? You're expected. Bribery is like the law in a lot of the world. Bribery will get you places, right? That's how it is in South Africa. That's how it is in India. That's how it is in Iran. If you can bribe, I don't know if that's how it is in Iran, but if you can bribe, you can get far. But that isn't the case in more liberal countries. And, you know, there might, because I'm critical of futurism, but it would never occur to me to think, see futurism, it's a white, Eurocentric idea. Because I don't think that's the right way to characterize perceived errors, is to attribute race and ethnicity to them. I think that's divisive, right? So if you're a white Christian professor, do these things that I'm telling you to do. What if I say no? What if I don't agree with your assessment? Because it feels like the response there is, well, then you're a racist. You're a racist. You're clearly a racist. And it's like, well, no. I mean, what if I just, you know, this is who I am. I can't help who I am. Again, this conversation might be different in the USA. I think Americans need to, I don't know what it means necessarily to be an American, because American is different, right? It's not an ethnicity. But Scottish is an ethnicity. Scottish is, you know, I'm a type of person from a place, and we have a way of doing things. So I would take exception to, to someone born in Haiti telling me as a Scot how to do my theological studies. You know, to take advice. By the way, don't be so white about your theological studies. I'd be like, man, I'm going to take exception to that. However, there could be an argument here. Americans, you need to discuss this among yourself. There could be an argument here for Americans. Maybe, you know, America is something of a melting pot. But the question then becomes, is there something that Americans are not? Right, is anything an American? Can anyone be an American? Or is an American a cultural identity? And I think there's some big questions about that. Like, if I understand the history of America, then it's complicated. It's definitely complicated. Definitely complicated. Right, but I would say there's a lot of Britishness in the history of America, right? The 13 colonies. It was, I mean, the American Revolution, the American Wars of Independence. I mean, you were British subjects, right? Subjects of the British Crown. That's who the original Americans were. And then that society did its thing, and there was a legacy of slavery, but definitely not exceptional. Like, the American slave trade was nothing in terms of the Portuguese slave trade. Nobody talks about it. It was much bigger, much more prolific than the American one. The fact that 1 in 200 people today are enslaved. So I don't want to make Americans the world's villains when it comes to slavery. In fact, in terms of a country getting into slavery and then slavery ending, like, that chapter began and ended in America very, very quickly. And I think that's the tension in America. America had to grow up very, very quickly as a very young country. And it did. And it has made us amazing leaps. But I think because it is such a short window, there's still open wounds. But I don't think this kind of, I mean, there might be a sober academic way to do this, to kind of, I don't know. It's a difficult one. I don't like the idea of attributing negativity to race necessarily. Like, you know, telling white people, this is what you should do. You know, you need to be very conscious of the fact that you're white. I mean, I think what the issue is here, it's trying to legislate niceness. I'll tell you what happens. I don't think you can do it, but this is how I feel as a Christian, right? So I'm in academia quite a bit, right? And there'll be foreign students, and there might be a group chat, okay? So that's me, I'm from Scotland, there'll be somebody else from Scotland, and then there might be 4 people from Africa in the group, right? Now, if I'm sitting in that group and I see that the other white Scottish person is just talk. They're just talk. I will deliberately then feel very tense because I'm like, oh shit, dude, you're doing a lot of talking. Don't you realize there's other people in this group and how it might be perceived if you just keep running your fucking mouth? So then I'll just turn around and be like, oh, Louise, would you like to contribute? I'm quite interested what you may have to say. You know what I mean? So then I'll try and pass the ball, right? I'll try and pass the ball a bit. But I don't know if you can legislate that, because I think that might be all this person's trying to say is, hey, look, if you come from a country that has been predominantly white, it would be very cool if you included the people who are minorities. And I think, dude, there's an idea, right? But we need to be so much more chill in how we approach that subject and tender with it too, and understanding what we're saying when we say those things. Because when you look out at the larger world, nobody else is doing that. I'm sorry to say it, it's not happening anywhere else. Do you think the Pakistanis are doing that? There's not enough white Scottish people in Pakistan in Parliament, right? That's not happening. Do you think it's happening in Nigeria? There's not enough white people in power here in Nigeria. That's not happening. Do you think it's happening in Saudi Arabia? You know what we need? An Englishman to rule this place. That's not happening, right? You know what I mean? So it's complicated, right? Because we are asking a lot. We're asking a lot. I don't think we are asking a lot. I think it's just the fact that we're not asking anybody else to do it. That's the kind of messed up thing. We're only specifically going to ask white Americans, the British, and maybe some other European countries. I feel like the other European countries don't get enough flack. You know what I mean? I feel like they don't get enough flack for this kind of stuff. But I don't know. It's so complicated, guys. It's so complicated. And we're talking about civil war in the UK now because of ethnic resentments and tensions. There was a better way to do this. There was a Christian way to do this. And we didn't listen, I feel like Randy Marsh. We didn't listen. Dude, this guy here, he's talking about last days. I can't stand this guy. I can't stand. Let's hear what he has to say. Hold on.
Hey, good morning, family. Praise the Lord. Thank you for joining us. Well, it's Diana and Brandon. Thank you for joining us. Truly, we're so blessed to have you all pray with us every single time we do these videos. We were so excited, Braden. We got the report, and it said we're number 5. Number 5 because of you all coming and praying it with us. Of the most viewed, most watched channel, Christian channel and YouTube.
Yeah.
Us, I told Diana, I go, are you kidding me? Top 5? We're the top 5.
Praise
All glory to God, ladies and gentlemen. I said, Lord, what you've done in just a short amount of time. He said, Brandon, there's much more to come. There's much more to come, son. As you stay vertical, as you stay focused, as you attract to deflect, it's all about Jesus. But in this, I want to celebrate a milestone of being the top 5 Christian viewed channel on YouTube.
Look what God did.
Yeah, look what God did.
He wows us.
He wows us. But you all supported it so much. I think above us was Stephen Furtick and TD Jakes and another channel I never heard before. And amazing, because we know those people have huge channels, and our channel, they have millions of followers. People, like, he was surrounded by other people and in this event, and all of a sudden he was shot right here in his chest, and I saw a blood stain on that white shirt started to spread like a $50 size, and I kept hearing the word AK-47. I kept hearing it was like it was a loud noise, and he was gone. It was one shot.
I don't know, one shot from an AK-47. I mean, that's weird. That's a weird choice of weapon to rattle off one shot from. I don't even know who he's talking about. I'm going to assume it's Donald Trump.
Then I went to President Trump, and I could see him weeping because of what had happened. And he was in so much stress and travail, he was bent over, weeping because of his son being taken out. So upset. Like anybody would if their child was murdered. I saw him travailing and crying. And then, I'm not gonna, when I get into start seeing that vision again, I'm not gonna, I could see the funeral, and he could barely walk. He was so grieving. He was grieving so bad. He could barely walk. He was stumbling. They had to help him, hold him up, as he was travail, like in travail, weeping over his son's life being taken. I could see Barron. He was wearing a black suit with a white shirt with a black tie, similar to what he wore on the inauguration. And then I could see Melania, and she had a black hat on. She had a veil on her face that was black. You see through, like really like a net. But it was.
How does he have so much energy for such banal details? Does that help sell this? He was wearing a veil it was black with the holes in it. It's like, that's a veil. That the word she was wearing a veil, that would have told me all that information. It was black and it had holes in it so you could see through. What else? And there was a window and it was like air except really hard. And it stopped things like rain coming in. It's like, dude, yeah, it's a window, man. Was that a real prophetic insight?
It was very classy looking, and it was over her face, and she had black sunglasses on, and she had a black dress on, and it had a little white on its side. And
dude, there's no way this guy's straight. Everything about this guy is a lie. Like, this is like fashion week for him. And she had the little white sachet on, and I said, girl, you are serving. I scared myself. I'm too good at that. It's like, girl, you are serving tonight.
She had, and that's, I couldn't see her shoes, but she was.
I couldn't see her shoes. Really annoyed me. I wanted to see what she was wearing on damn toes. Like, dude, you need to reel it in. You need to reel this in right now. You're losing your audience.
Trying to support Trump as he was walking to the funeral.
Why is he doing that with his hands when he says trying to support Trump, and then it's like he's holding a baby?
And that's, I couldn't see her shoes, but she was trying to support Trump as he.
Why is it like this? He was trying to support Trump, who had lost a lot of body mass at this point. It's like, dude, come on, man.
As he was walking to the funeral, and I could see the other children there, but it was mainly those three in the vision that were very clear. Ivanka was there. I could see Ivanka, and she was crying too, and she had a hat on. But the church looked like the church where they went before the inauguration. It looked like that church that they went to for prayer before.
Like at the cathedral.
At the cathedral. It looked like that exact place. That's where they were at having this funeral. And that's when the Lord said, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to stop? You're going to pray. You're going to intercede for this man. So that's what I bring to you, these things that are very heavy. Now, part 2 of this vision. I saw New York City on fire. I saw... Dude
is just swinging, man. The guy is just swinging. So we went from one of Donald Trump's kids is going to get shot in the chest, a single shot from an AK-47. It's just like everything he's doing is so formulaic. It's so like, I could do this. I could do it exactly the same way he's doing it. Let me give that a shot, right? This could be my new career. Hold on. Let's give it my new career. I saw in the vision, it was Prince Charles, and he was wearing a red military top with the medals on it, and he was in travail. And he was travailing because Camilla, there was a bang, and then half of her face fell off. Okay, I'm not as good at it. Half of her face just fell off. You seen Better Call Saul? You know, when the Los Polos chicken guy comes out and then half of his face isn't there. That's what happened to Camilla. And he's in travail. And then Prince William puts him in some swaddling cloth. I don't know. I can't actually do it. He might be legit. He might be legit. I can't do it.
Fires all throughout New York City. I could see the Statue of Liberty, and there was smoke rolling all around the atmosphere above the Statue of Liberty, even at her neck level. There was fire, smoke from inside the city. And I could see
see the little looks he gives her. See the little looks. Like, are you hearing this? Are you hearing this shit that I'm saying? Like, he's almost looking at her as if to say, am I taking it too far? Have I went too far this time? Like, just the escalation. You know, Donald Trump Jr. gets shot in the chest. And then, next thing, New York's on fire. The whole of New York City's on fire. Statue of Liberty up to her neck in black smoke. I couldn't see what she was wearing. I'm pretty sure it was a Chanel. All right, let's see where we got.
Burning, but I seen a mass exodus of all the rich people leaving New York because of the decisions that will be made in the future. I saw the Lord said, the seed is the ballot. For whatsoever a man, for when they vote a wrong person in power, they vote corruption in power. And the seeds they sow for the corruption, Brandon, brings forth a reprobate mind in the city. A reprobate mind in the city.
I mean, the guy's serving right now. I mean, that's just true. That is just factual. I think all he's doing is he's giving political commentary, but he's just doing it through the lens of like prophetic vision, like some kind of performance when he pretends he's a prophet, right? And I think, I don't know, like, obviously there's that whole risk, right? What if this guy is a prophet and I'm sitting here sassing him? Well, so what? You know what I mean? I don't wish any ill will towards him. I'm just having a laugh. But people, you might say, well, you're mocking. Didn't Elijah send bears to eat kids for that kind of stuff? It's like, look, it comes from a good place. It comes from a good place. But also, I just don't believe it because I'm a full preterist and this guy's channel's called Last Days. So I'm being completely consistent with my own beliefs. I think this guy is a charlatan. I don't even think he's straight and that's his wife or something. I think he's all fake. And he just needs to be himself. He just needs to be true to himself and just like own who he is as an individual. That might be so disrespectful if he's actually just a committed, lovely married man who believes he genuinely has this gift. But I don't know.
For seed, time, and harvest never ceases. Whatsoever man that will he also reap. He said there's a time to live and there's a time to die. There's a time to sow and there's a time to reap. A time to plant and a time to harvest. But he kept going over things and telling me this is because they sowed this way. So I saw all the rich people leaving. I saw hundreds of thousands of people were leaving New York City in this vision. And the Lord showed me David Wilkerson's face. And he said, remember what he said. Go look at what he said. I gave a word to him.
Who's David Wilkerson?
David Wilkerson. I have not even thought about David Wilkerson since I was...
Is this some guy from his past that he has some beef with? And the Lord said, Jimmy McCaskill. And I was like, Jimmy McCaskill from work 2 weeks ago when he ate my lunch. What about that, Lord? He says, remember this face, my son, because he is responsible for setting fire to New York City in 3 months' time. You heard it here, folks. Go get him.
I was a kid. I mean, it's not one that, I listened to. But the Lord said, I spoke a warning through David Wilkerson, a prophetic warning years ago. Go study it and find it. One of you amazing prayer warriors said, hey, Brandon, I told Diana through email, this is the word that David Wilkerson gave. Now, I want you to hear this prophetic word from David Wilkerson. We have it, and we're going to play it for you. And I want you to hear what he prophesied would come as people vote in the wrong people.
I stood in this pulpit a few weeks ago, and it took every bit of Holy Ghost courage he could give me to say what I had to say, but I have felt this for weeks. I believe that New York City is in for 30 days of chastisement, such as America's never seen, any American city. I see at least 1,000 fires burning in every borough, every business that's on the brink right now, deciding whether to move out of the city, will move. There's a hemorrhage already. And
Like, so this guy got this, but he didn't get 9/11.
City already. I don't care what Mayor Dinkins says. It's a third world city. We have a murder every hour on the hour now. Major crime every 20 seconds.
Hey, we're beating you on those stats. Those are rookie numbers. Come to Civil War UK.
Such chaos and anarchy in New York City coming. I don't know when, but I don't think it's too far off. And I don't know what's going to set it off. There'll be no planes, trains, anything coming in this city for probably 2 weeks. And all those who have money and are able will escape. And New York City, our crown city, because of its absolute rebellion against God, its absolute sinfulness and wickedness, is going to be chastised. And this is God. He could have sent hydrogen bombs from
I'm starting to agree with the author of this book. There's too many white people talking shit.
And wiped us off the map. But no, he gives us warnings. He slaps our wrist and said, look, I'm talking to you. And that's what AIDS is. It's a message. All of these calamities, they're messages. And God's saying, wake up.
So that was the word. And I feel like that word, when I heard that, I said, that's exactly what I saw. That's exactly what I saw. I saw thousands of fires burning inside New York. I saw a mass.
I mean, technically, you can tick the box for the fulfillment whenever there's a riot. And there will be riots in New York City because of, yeah, the way the world is. It's not going to take a master political theorist to look at the policies that are being enacted and the democratic crisis that these things are producing. You know, we're going to see, we're predicting a summer of riots here in the United Kingdom. I mean, people are rioting in California and other places in America over ICE raids. New York City's not going to be far behind. You know, the policies that are being rolled out in New York City, especially with increasingly left-wing politicians that they're so resistant to the right. They don't think the right has anything to offer whatsoever, which is dangerous. Right, it takes two to tango. Right, it takes both sets of traits to produce a functional city. You can't just, you know, not take the counsel of people across the aisle. That's not going to work.
Exodus of people leaving New York, but it become a ruinous heap. There was judgment set in, like it was, I'm telling y'all folks, it was bad. I'm talking people were leaving from New York City again, and I saw them going south. They were like, we're out of here. The Lord spoke to me and he said, Mystery Babylon is coming. Mystery Babylon is coming. And a lot of people, that probably is controversial to a lot of people, because there's a lot of people who believe that Rome's Mystery Babylon, you have all these other places, but the Lord spoke to me specifically about New York.
Dude, it's Israel, right?
And he said, it's coming. And I'm telling you, folks, when I get these words like this and they're that heavy, I just pray over them, and that's why I wasn't quick to make a video, because I'm just like, whoa, you know, this is heavy. I walked away after it was over. I told Diana, I said, I had to just process that a little bit. Everything the Lord's showing me about the fires burning up New York, about all these things happening, and just warning you to pray over President Trump's health. Because the enemy has a plan, but God has a greater plan. And we
there's something
have power
flaming.
and authority over the enemy.
Definitely something flaming.
And we are not. Oh, and I saw Gavin Newsom's times coming up short. I saw former President Biden getting ready to go home soon. And so I saw him being buried, and I saw him going.
Dude, these are very low risk predictions. Oh, a frail, sick 90-year-old man. I saw that. I saw that he's close to death. It's like, dude, wow, come on, man.
Because of course he's old, so it's not like it's a shocker. Right, that's a prophetic confirmation if he goes home tomorrow.
This guy's a prophet. He's predicting my sass. He's predicting my sass now.
Everybody's gonna go home, right? But the Lord said it's coming. And as we see these things, He spoke to me more about the line. All these things that are happening with him signing the Genesis bill and all these things. Folks, we're in the end of the end here. The beast system's coming to play. All these major things I told you to watch. And it's happening right before our faces.
Dude, it's not happening.
And I'm just encouraged because I know that Jesus Christ has chosen us for such a time as this.
Oh my God.
And there's good days ahead for the body of Christ, folks.
Hey,
We're
I'll
going
take
to
that.
see the greatest outpouring of the Spirit of the Lord like
Hallelujah.
we've never seen before. And I'm just thankful for every single one of you. Like I say over and over again,
Well,
thank you
I
for
appreciate-
joining us every
I
single time
appreciate
we
you,
pray.
brother.
Because with many hands make light work. With many hands make light work. So we pray
Especially
over
your limp
who
wrists,
Trump
mate.
and his
Hey,
kids.
I'm only joking. Nothing against.
Because if they can't get to him, they try to get to what he loves the most. His grandkids, his kids. And I'm telling you, folks, these people are wanting revenge for their leaders in Iran. There's an enemy within.
Yeah, man.
There's an enemy within. And we must pray for an uncovering for a pulling back of the turning on the light, exposing the cockroaches that are in our nation. And there's some cockroaches up in here. And I saw the darkness over Israel also. So I thought that was interesting. It was over America, and I saw it over Israel. And this, the Lord said, end time events are happening. End time events are happening.
No, he didn't.
And I just thought it was interesting, y'all, because as I was praying over Benjamin Netanyahu and him making the decision as Syria
That's
is ruined
topical.
as heap, all
That's
these
topical.
major events are coming. Ezekiel 38 and 39 is coming. We're going to see a peace accord. We're going to see all these things. It's coming. Jesus Christ is coming. We're seeing earthquakes in different. I think Russia had like 4 or 5 major earthquakes yesterday. A 7.4, 6.6, 6.6. It's crazy numbers. And I thought that was kind of interesting. 6.6, 6.6, 6.3 times is what I saw. I thought that's not coincidence. 666, 666. I mean, I was like, that's not coincidence. That's crazy. That's creepy. Go from glory to glory. He's prayer army for the end times. And we're getting
I don't know. Anyways, this is one of your most viewed Christian channels. Top 5. 5 And you got to give it to the man, you know. You can put on a show. Thing is, I would love to do that, and I think I could do it. I just don't have the heart to be a deceiver. I'd really enjoy to put on a wee performance and pretend that God was talking to me. And I could halfway convince myself that he was. You know? I would just need to have a strong enough perception or dream, and then I would say, well, you know, I guess I am a child of God, and if I do think certain things, then isn't that God speaking through me? So maybe I have a prophetic gift, and then I would just come on camera and say the things that come into my head and attribute them to a divine source, or leave that ambiguous but sell myself as a prophet. And you know, if I strike right on a couple of things, that's going to add to my legitimacy. Never mind the misses, right? Never mind the swinging misses. So, is it dark days ahead? I don't think so, because we're going to conclude on the note of human flourishing. Turn my attention to the chat for a second, guys. Sorry, I've been neglecting a little bit. Man, I get really wheezy in the evenings. Yep. This is it. I guess there's a bit of chat that I've missed. Here we go. So, singing a song a black man wrote is racist. If you're white, you're truly racist in that scenario. Exactly, right? This is the whole thing about cancel culture. It's insane. The Daja comes from UK. Don't know where Scotland or Ireland, I think. I've studied all religions, even went into Native American Indians. The foundations are all the same. It comes down to Deuteronomy 32, when the land allotment gave to the Elohim. That's true, dog. My granny was Choctaw. She recognized the creator in the scripture. I've said that. I've been to Haiti. Haiti sucks and their culture is unbelievably unjust and oppressive, but the point stands. You're here. It's a spirit thing. We got to get that spirit going. if we are going into captivity to the king of Babylon, we're going to experience slavery. We all experience slavery of a certain kind, that's for sure. I mean, people might not appreciate that given the horrors of the inhumanity of old school slavery, but it's true. There's slavery of the mind and soul and spirit. May all be the same thing. Racism is pride. If someone is humble, they won't be racist. This is it. And it's hard to legislate that. You need to find the solution to racism in your own heart, because that's the only place you can make any kind of contact that's meaningful with that subject. You could take the most whitest conservative man and have him appoint the most diverse reading material possible. It does nothing to that man's spirit. Lord, Lord, they will say to me on that day, I never knew you. Right? The only way you can cure racism is by being real, being humble, being honest, getting to know people of other races without all the weird baggage that people bring to it, right? Just make friends with people because you want to be friends with them, not because you've been mandated to, right? Not because someone thinks, oh, in order, I better prove that I'm not a racist. That is the worst reason to make a friend. Right? Don't make a friend to prove that you're not racist. Make a friend because you're a human being trying to contact another human being. And again, that is so difficult to legislate. It's a disposition of heart. And I appreciate that sentiment being shared. It's amazing how these people think imagination is a vision. It's daydreaming. You muppet. That's what I'm saying, aye. Drama salesman. This is it. The New Testament is the book of the tree of life revealed by the living word. Hallelujah. Even she knows he's full of it. Aye, the wife in that scenario. I was like, the wife in that scenario. Jackie. In my experience, racism was crushed by the love. That's it. Not war generation. It seems things were much better, but then all of a sudden it returned as if a great plan was in motion after 2010. Yeah, the great plan after 2010 was what they call, well, commentators call it race communism, right? Just destabilizing countries by race. Bringing racial consciousness right up to the forefront so that the only thing, not the only thing, but the most pertinent thing you notice about someone is difference via race. As if that was ever that's going to cure the tension in society. It's like these people are dumbasses of the most dumb of the most ass. Everyone who gets on with people knows that that is not how to conduct a relationship. You do not conduct a relationship by walking up to someone who's different and then just weirdly, forensically, like a Nazi eugenicist, just, ooh, let's open up this difference and stretch it out. And, you know what I mean? It's like, nah, just be chill. That, you know, just love other people. Be curious about difference in an innocent and, you know, nice, charming way. You know, be like, we're all these wonderful creatures of God. There's something incredibly special about all of us. We're a fearful and fearsome thing by virtue of the love that's endowed into us. You know, and it's like, I'm going to look on another human being and think less of them. No, I'm not. For a magnitude of reasons, chief among them, you know, God is in my heart. You know, if God is in my heart and I'm looking on another human being, I see something precious. I see something so precious, and it's in my spirit to see them as a greater than I. And that's throughout my whole life in different careers, right? If I see a person with a learning difficulty, I used to work in care. I never thought I'm better than this person. Right, I'm so much better than this person with Down syndrome. I never thought that one time. In my heart, I thought, this could be a most glorious angel of God. This could be the most glorious soul in this body. And on the other side of this, when we're both, giving up our bodies, I don't want this person to look into my soul and see that perhaps I thought I was better than them or something like that. And it's not like I had to talk myself out of doing that anyway. I'm just bearing my soul, right? In my heart, I just wanted to see it for how it truly was. And that for me was, hey, this person is a magnificent creature of God. And it's the same when I was doing primary school teaching. You look at a classroom with children, every single one different. And I don't look at them and say, oh, these are a bunch of little dumbasses. I'm going to get through the day and just give them a shit lesson. No, I would go to expense. I would buy stuff in that was fun. I would have them excavating fake dinosaur bones out of clay and just making a mess of the classroom, and just everyone's having fun. Because if they're not enjoying themselves, I'm not enjoying myself. And it's that same energy. Like if there's a cultural difference, if you meet someone who's a bit different, you don't want to make them feel weird. You don't want to go at it forensically. You just go at it like a person who sees just another beloved one of God, And I mean, it's the same thing with my own mother, right? There's a 5'2" woman. I'm so much better than her. I'm higher in the food chain than her. No, I don't do that. I see the most wonderful angel of God. And it's the same with my colleagues at work. I've had multiple colleagues from different places around the world, and I'm always really, really on good terms with them, really good terms with them, and that's because I just keep it chill, right? I don't talk about crazy shit, I don't start talking about racial issues or anything like that. We just talk normally, lovingly, and that's what gets it done. In the Old Testament, if a prophet was wrong, he was stoned to death. Exactly. There was such a high standard for being a prophet, whereas even that guy's Trump prediction was wrong, right? The specific details that he said would happen with the Trump assassination didn't play out like he said they would. And yet he's credited as this guy who saw it coming. But then again, all he has to do if it changes is say, well, that's because you prayed and you affected the sequence of events. Somebody should tell him to mix his sweet pickles, sauerkraut, and chocolate ice cream before bed. This is it, you know what I'm saying? This is it. President of the Internet. Whatever this dude is smoking, his dealer is stripping him off. I think so. Futurists love their conspiracy theories. They really do. This is okay, Ryan. Good to see it. This is, we have always had corrupt government. This is it. Yep. Party doesn't matter. Yep. This is what I say, Ryan. It doesn't matter what. Don't pick a political party. Never, ever pick a political party, because the political party is going to let you down. It's not flexible enough. Have a policy. Have something that you care about, and then vote to get that thing delivered. Whatever vehicle is going to do that for you. If as long as you're not compromising too much, right? That's the way you should go. Never vote for the political party, because it will fail you. And it's the same with the politician as well. The politician will fail you because they're human. Okay? And political parties will fail you because they're human bureaucracies. Instead, if there's a policy that you like, support that particular policy and try and get it through. Greedy says he's like a religious Howard Stern. He is. I'd say that's what that guy's doing. Yeah, he's a bit of a clown, putting on a bit of a clown show. Yep, I saw cartel members hiding in a bunker, and a bunker buster took them out. Oh wait, that happened. Yeah, man. I mean, that sounds like something that, I don't know. There's a lot of talk about. No, there's not a lot of talk about it, but Donald Trump did mention sending the military in to sort of deal with some of that kind of stuff. It would probably just lead to a lot of civil unrest, though. It's, It's not America's problem. Don't think it says a time to lie. Well, this is it, mate. You know what I mean? He talks about a time to this and a time to that. David Wilkerson, The Crossing, The Switchblade, I believe. That's it. He's a Gaia enthusiast, apparently. Crossing the Switchblade. I don't know what the Cross and the Switchblade is, but it sounds dodgy. Sounds like he's describing Daredevil series, yeah. He did predict the drones. What else is it? Here we go. I'm just going to skip that. Ozzy Osbourne passed away. That's a sad one. Good grief. You can tell a con by the demeanor. Yeah, that's it. See all the half-truths. Amen, amen, amen. Conference happening on Montana now. Don Preston, is that eschatology of Genesis? Eschatology of Genesis. That could be quite interesting. Let's have a little gander and see what's happening over there. Hold on. Eschatology of Genesis. Let me just eschatology of Genesis. Don Preston. I don't think that worked because I spelled everything incorrectly. Let's see if there's anything live going on that way. I don't know. Let's see what this is.
Ancient, Gavin. That is the Shepherd of Hermas. But you know what I promised you all as well? I promised you to look at that we would show the universality of intercession. And we indeed can. By going to the ancient apostolic sees. Now, what are the ancient apostolic sees? I know yesterday we talked about it briefly. The ancient Christian sees, they are also called patriarchates. What do they refer to?
Dude, you're losing me. You're losing me on that one, my friend. So I would like to get Don Preston back on the channel. So let me get a little update, actually, because I got some things going on. Oh, I had the wrong screen on. Apologize. I was trying to find something. So I reached out to Daniel Rogers, and Daniel Rogers has agreed to do a chat with me on Friday. So that'll be quite interesting. I'm not sure if we're going to record it and then edit it, or if it's just going to go out live, or if it's on his channel, or if it's on my channel. But it's happening. So embarrassing. I sent him a list of questions, and I just threw up in Google AI a little bit about his book and stuff and sent it off and his background. I asked him like 25 questions, but some of the questions from the AI were derived from like just nonsense information. This is why you don't use AI for these things. It was like, oh, Daniel, tell us about your upbringing in a place that he's never lived. He was like, are you trying to talk to me? Because this doesn't sound like me. And then I asked him about a book which he hadn't written. I was like, oh man. But it's going to be fine. It's going to be cool. I thought it'd be more entertaining if I asked them questions that don't relate to him at all. I feel like there's an audience for that. So no, that'll be good. Daniel seems like a really skilled, sort of theologically minded person and a young father. So it'd be interesting to get his perspective on things, his outlook on the future. I've downloaded his book that he wrote. I got a copy here. It's a PDF file. I hate saying those letters together now. How a 25-year-old learned he wasn't the only one going to heaven, which is, quite a good thing for a 25-year-old to learn. I remember when I was that age and I was worried about people who didn't believe exactly the same way I did because I feared they wouldn't be going to heaven. And, that's just a silly thought, isn't it? I think we all kind of get that drilled into us because doctrinal purity becomes this, peak test to dictate who's going where. But I don't feel that way anymore. A friend of mine is losing their father to prostate cancer, and that's not a pleasant experience for her to go through. She feels very little support in her life, and I try and offer support as I can, mostly just through being super chill and awesome. Seeing how that goes. She said that she prayed that it wouldn't get worse, and it didn't work. So God's not real. Now, I think she was being flippant, right? I don't think she genuinely believed that to be true, but it was one of the first things that she said to me today. And you've got a bunch of choices when that's presented to you as a Christian, right? You could immediately become defensive and offer up an apologetic, listen to the ontological reason for the existence of God. But that's not how you do it. Again, it's all about the approach tonight, because we're trying to conclude this on the point of human flourishing. And it's all about the approach. It's all about the disposition that you bring to it. So I wasn't about to crush her in a debate about the existence of God, because her words don't mean what they sound like. When someone says, I don't believe in God, they're just making a noise, or they're just manipulating pixels on a screen. It doesn't really communicate the true depth, the raw emotion of what's really going on inside them. I don't think you can any more deny God than you can deny yourself. It's God is just so intrinsic to the experience of life that I just believe people don't know what they're saying. So all I did was try to be, it's going to sound cliche, just to be present. Just to be present in the moment, to be there with her. Because I believe that God can reside within me in some sense, that I can demonstrate the existence of God to her. And there's something sacred about that bond. And even as a man with a female friend, there's something sacred about that bond that I find is useful to reflect on this, right? Because what was that? The Coldplay concert with the CEO who's cheating on his wife with the HR or whatever it was lead. There's a temptation for man to look upon another woman lustfully, or in a moment of weakness, perceive her as a potential partner, maybe to satiate some short-lived desire, and then burn with regret afterwards, whatever it is, who knows, lust. But if you're trying to demonstrate the fruits of the Spirit, if you have a female friend that you cherish, you want to restrain, that sounds ominous as all hell, because of the implications. That's an Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference. What I'm trying to say is, you don't want to demonstrate that your friendship is conditional on the idea that you might get some kind of gratification of the flesh from her. Man, this sounds so dodgy as hell, but you know what I'm saying, right? You know what I'm saying. Everybody knows this dynamic between men and women, right? So you want to make it... Everything I'm about to say sounds so dodgy. You want to make it familial. You want to make it incestuous. You want to make sure that the relationship is framed in a way that line can never be crossed. And so that's something that's present on my mind, because I'm speaking about a female friend that I love. I love them, and I feel the depth of sorrow that they carry because they're going to lose their father. And I've never met her father, but her father and I have something in common. We both love this young woman. And, I remember what I said about seeing people as what they truly are, and how on the other side there's that just information exchange. Everybody knows everything. It's just free information. I would rather conduct myself in such a way that her father would look down and think, good, my love is preserved in this world through him, even though I've never met him. He cares about my daughter in a way that's not self-serving, not prideful, not built on ego or some kind of sexual conquest. This is, a man after my own heart. And, it placates the idea of leaving my daughter in this world. It pacifies any stress I might have, because lo and behold, there's another man in the world who cares about her. And what a fucking nice thing. If I ever have a daughter and I had to leave her, wouldn't I want another man in this world who loves her in a similar fashion? I'm not going to, that's too much. I can't say I have the same love as a father has for a daughter. I don't know if that doesn't seem right for me to presume to have that. But all I'm saying is, if I can approach it and I feel like I can, that's what I want to be in this world, because that's the world I want to live in. And, no one else is going to make that happen except me. And I feel like if I did cross that line, if it did become an intimate relationship with a sexual dynamic, it would ruin the world in a way, at least as I perceive it. And I know there's all kinds of atrocities going on in this world, but I get to control this particular set of circumstances to a certain degree. And I know in my heart that I've failed that test before. I've had female friends before. And, I was in my 20s, which is no excuse. Age isn't an excuse. But I went over to visit female friends, and in my head said, it's just a female friend. It's just a female friend. We're friends. And then next thing you know, I'm prophesying New York's on fire. You know what I mean? And she was wearing a veil, and it was had holes in it, and I could see. Yeah, I was lying to myself. A valuable lesson. It's valuable to know when you are full of shit. It's humiliating in a way, in a sense, because there's a calling towards doing things better. And I have failed that mission. But I think the world, the universe, God has a way of presenting you a mission, again, sensitively, in time, with the knowledge that you can pass that test. And sometimes you can be presented the exact same circumstances. And it's almost like, look, this is a thing. You came to this world to overcome this. Now, you've failed it once, you failed it twice, you failed it 3 times. I'm not giving up on you yet. You can have another shot at this. So, I want to do it right. I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. That's what I want to do. You know what I mean? That sounds like a conquest. To catch them is my real test. To train them as my cause. That's my relationship with women. Pokemon. That's what comes to mind. Don't read into that. Don't read into. No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Those are not the things I mean to communicate. But yeah, there's a rawness, there's a realness there. So I can restore my faith. I can juice up my faith and evidence the existence of God to this woman by exemplifying love in the spirit of Christ, right? By taking the teachings of Christ, by just emptying myself of my will, that the Father's will might increase. And so I get to demonstrate, I get to be a part of this beautiful, beautiful dynamic, that restores a woman's faith in a time of crisis. And that's how you get to human flourishing. Because human flourishing isn't about extinguishing sadness, right? It's not about getting, people to assign diverse reading. It's about turning that critical lens on yourself. It's about recognizing the fact that, God, you know what? We're full of shit sometimes, and we need help. And there's something edifying about that. Like, I've done things that not terrible things on a legal scale, but just moral failings that have surprised me, that I would never have known if I didn't go out and experience the world, because I could have remained safe and sheltered from them. I could have, but I decided to go out into the world and to interact with people. And through interacting with people, I exposed my limitation. I exposed my frailty. And that was incredibly educational. So it showed me the benchmark. It showed me I thought the benchmark was up here for me. It's not. It's like inches off the ground. And that's where everyone has to start, because as Aristotle that said, you learn by doing. You learn something very proficiently when you actually have to do it. It's not enough to sit in a cave and pray, because if you've never exposed yourself to temptation, then you do not know how you will weather that storm. You need to put yourself in the precarious. You don't need to put yourself in precarious situations. That's not what I'm saying. But you need to live life. And as you do, those precarious situations will find you. And they will expose you. And, as they expose you, your idea of yourself, who you think you are, your identity changes, right? Doesn't matter how pure your mum and dad did it. It doesn't matter how sweet your abuela is, right? You cannot imbibe their traits. You cannot imbibe their successes, right? I worked in a rehab, and one of the guys that came into the rehab, his dad was an Olympic swimmer. He wasn't. He wasn't an Olympic swimmer. You don't inherit these qualities necessarily. If you're fortunate, you kind of can, but you need to walk the walk yourself. And that's the joy in it all. It's tempting to want to avoid it, but you can't. You can't, and you don't want to, really. You really do want to get out there and live your life. So, yeah, I think there's something to be said. And it means you can minister to people better too, right? You can minister to people better too. This is my good friend. She's going to go through something that sucks. I've been through it. I've lost my dad. I've lost a brother. I've lost 2 uncles. I've lost my grandmother. I've lost my great auntie. I lost my grandfather. You lose everyone as you get older, but I'm not sad about it. I'm not sad. I can get sad about it, but I believe in something more, something incredible. I marvel at the natural world. Some people are skeptical about the natural world. I'm not. I'm happy to go along with mainstream science. And, they say there's a super massive black hole at the center of our galaxy called Sagittarius A. And the reason Sagittarius A is at the center of our galaxy is because it's the most massive object in the galaxy, and so it naturally settles in the center because it's the heaviest thing, and then around it there'll be massive stars and things, and we're on this outer limb of the galaxy. But if you could orbit, and you can technically orbit these dormant black holes, dormant because it's not consuming matter at this point. It's already consumed the matter round about it that was there. It's quite settled at this point. So the radiation, it probably still would be crazy radioactive at the center. But if you could orbit around this black hole for, I don't know, a week or two, then thousands of years would elapse on Earth, which is crazy, right? But this is due to some kind of time dilation via gravity. So if you could make it as 26,000 light years away, so you need warp speed to get there. But if you could get there and then just orbit round about the supermassive black hole, quite close, but not too close till you get sucked in, just perfect, then in a matter of weeks, thousands of years would have passed on this Earth. Imagine coming back to it and seeing how it's progressed. You know, would there be human flourishing at that point? I don't know. I don't know. I would like to think that you don't have to get to the point that, I don't know, the British, I mean, people say the British had a very particular way of being. Private property laws, in particular, were part of what made the liberal mind, were part of what made the British justice system. And there was something very particular about the British marketplace and how commerce was conducted and the systems that were in place for that. And that's why capitalism seemed to become so crazy amazing in the UK, even though it's a much older idea in mainland Europe. But once the English got their hands on it, it really excelled and took off because there was something endemic to those particular people in that particular time. And then the British Empire spawns out of that. I don't understand all that. I've not studied all that. But I would like to think that all that industrialism, etc., isn't necessary. But I don't know. I don't feel heartened. Because as I look at the world, I don't see the promised land. I don't see it. I don't see. It's starting to sound like I doubt full preterism. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't. Because the promised land for me isn't land per se. It's like in the hearts of people, but I don't see the communities. And maybe you just wouldn't. Maybe you wouldn't see them, right? Because they're in a hill in Tibet, or they're a small community in Japan, or it's a small community in Siberia, or it's a small community in the, Congo. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting close to something that's special and good, which is maybe hubris, but I feel like I'm getting close to something that's good. And I despair at that because it's kind of like realizing you're the best qualified person to fly the plane, but you don't know how to fly a plane. And it's like you want someone else. I'm not saying there's not people better or more experienced in the faith. What I'm saying is the people that I meet who are like that, they speak English, they're either from America or the UK or Australia or something. And it's like, Bixby's telling me that she doesn't understand that. But that's the way I feel. I'm scared that it's not more out there. It might just be diffuse, like it might be out there, but it's spread kind of thin. I don't know. I just wish it was more prevalent as well. these ideas, you know, these crazy ideas. And I guess maybe they are. What am I actually lamenting here? You know what? I think it's a very Scottish perspective that I have right now, because Scotland, if I can let you into my mindset, Scotland is the most it's the most drug deaths in Europe. In fact, it's the most drug deaths in the world per capita happen here in Scotland. The United Kingdom also has the worst child abuse in Europe because of these grooming gangs. And we also have the highest rape in Europe. And we've got pretty bad depression in the UK as well. We score quite highly in that too. So there's a darkness, what's been described as a moral pall, this cloud, this gauze of despair, and it's brilliant for tourism. Come and visit. Come and experience the gauze of despair. No, it's not that bad. It's pretty bad. It's awful. No, it's not. It's just the struggles, you know, there's struggles everywhere. And I just wish that, you know, maybe I'm just looking for a bit more community, right? So maybe what I'm doing is I'm looking at my own personal experience and just dipping the quill into that ink, and it just seems a little darker as I reflect on morbid subject matter. But I am ultimately optimistic and hopeful. You know, that might be one of the points that the author of this book, Dr. Joseph, and his theological education, Christian scholarship for human flourishing, the point might just be to broaden our horizons, to look beyond ourselves and to understand that there's other people out there doing it better. And if you look and try and see something that matches your experience exactly, you're going to be disappointed, because maybe that's not what we're supposed to be doing. I don't think that is what I'm doing, but I've already started making this point, so let's work it to its conclusion. But just that, I don't know, there's a way, and I think it's a change of heart for humanity. And gosh, think about Syria, think about the Druids getting shot. There's a ceasefire just now, I believe. When are we going to stop it? Why can't we stop it? And then I consider the cataclysms. I was talking about being at the centre of the galaxy. It's a very dramatic place to be, the centre of the galaxy. Stars collide and planets and comets, and well, a lot of that action contributes to the environment where life can thrive. So, you know, Carl Sagan would say that human beings are sentient stardust, and well, stars experience a lot of calamity, but once they settle, well, we get the solar system, right? We get Earth and we get life. But I believe there's life with a capital L to be achieved. And that when that happens, you know, the sons of stars and the daughters of stars will stop clashing. They'll stop striking each other. And when they do, when things stabilize and peace comes, then, you know, the morning star will rise in our hearts. People often assume that morning star is reserved for Satan, but, you know, I think, was it not used to describe, was that a king of Babylon? Was that the right place? But it's also used to describe Jesus Christ. So I'm hopeful for that. I'm hopeful that human beings, just like stars that comprise the atoms or jettisoned out the atoms that produce their bodies and stuff that, you know, will clash a little bit, but we will settle. And then we'll be able to turn from sheer materialism, which is, you know, the Carl Sagan hypothesis. I'm not sure if he was a strict materialist, but he spoke in those materialistic terms, which I will do to placate the more scientific minded. Because in Scotland, everybody's a skeptic. But ultimately, the real stuff of existence is spiritual. And so I hope that once we've quenched our blood thirst, we will strike peace. And that's the next testament to be written, you know. Here's to that. Here's to that. What a somber note. I didn't stick the landing with this one at all. What do we get? What do we get? Yeah. Oh dang, there's a conference happening. Oh yeah, that's right. Piss off a building and prophecy something going to get wet and look. I'm a prophet. Yeah, that's how prophecy works. Right now, Tim Martin is speaking. Not sure if Don has already and has time for tonight. Willie, I learned from the top down, not the bottom up. I'm 180 degrees out of phase and mirrored. That's how we do it, Doug. That's how we do it. We got it our own interesting ways. It's more important to have unity in the body of Christ than to be right. Hallelujah. This needed to be right in pride. That's the reason I spilled wine. Yep, we learned by falling or failing. We learned what not to do. Hallelujah. Don is the third speaker tonight. If anyone's going to check out the stream from Montana, I got to run, y'all. Chipakacha, Lokatan, Uma. Be blessed until we meet again. Yeah, I'm going to round up there too, guys. So thank you for joining me tonight. We went a little longer than I thought we would. I'm just riffing now. Just a little hang up. So a little hangout. But I think we covered everything we need to cover tonight. It's been just nice to catch up. We're going to do some more. I don't know. I want to study a bit more for the Daniel conversation. So Daniel Rogers and I will be speaking on Friday. I'm looking forward to that. I'll be a bit more zesty for that one. And still waiting to hear back from Jeff Mara. But I'm looking forward to that too. I'll rehearse a little something good for that. And yeah, I want to do a little something on religious trauma. I want to build some resources for us just to discuss those kinds of topics and get some kind of spiritual healing from the teachings of Christ. So I think that'd be quite good. Anyways, TTFN to you all. God bless, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.